How you doing, Xavier? Giving me the winks. So this is a interesting class. The class that we're doing today is a class on Mojubas. Anybody in here know what a Mojuba is? You 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 know what a Mojuba is?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm gonna write this out real quick for you, right? Hey, people, that's there. I'm gonna write this out real quick, right? So Mojuba essentially means I pay homage to. The spell it is Mojuba means I pay homage to. Mojuba. So a lot of times when we start doing prayers are kind of unfamiliar to some people. Everybody's not really familiar with praying. And you don't necessarily know how to pray or what we're praying for. So you'll hear people say, oh, I'm gonna pray for this, or go pray for that, but what is it exactly that you're doing, right? And so in Yoruba culture, there's a specific format that we go when we go to do prayers, asking for assistance from our ancestors, from our orishas, from all of the energy. And this whole entire thing that we do at the end of the day is really based off of ancestral veneration. So I'm explaining what that means. Ancestral veneration essentially means paying homage or giving thanks to your ancestors. And the reason why we start off with ancestral veneration is because we know that the ancestors exist. How do we know that the ancestors exist? You met them. You know who your first ancestors are? Your mom and dad, not your grandparents, your mom and your dad. You can't get here without mama and baba, or Iya and Baba, or mom and dad. Those are your first ancestors. So ideally, we have met them before. We've actually had a conversation with them. We've talked to them. We know that they exist. You met God before? You met him? No, I'm saying I probably know. I don't really remember meeting them. You remember meeting them? Having a conversation? No. Now we know that God exists, but I don't honestly remember having a conversation. But you know what I do know for a fact? That these ancestors exist. Because I had a conversation with them. So when we start out doing this, the first thing that we start doing is really giving thanks to the ancestors, because we really could not be here if not for the ancestors. Literally, we couldn't be here, right? And so I say that to say that the first thing that we really start with is giving thanks, right? And giving thanks and asking for assistance. Hey, look, we got some more people showing up to the class. Oh, all right, what's going on there? And so I think that is very, very important, you know, to take a step back and to have an understanding for what that is. Before we even get to the Mojuba, is the fact that there's something that came before us that opened up a path, that opened up a road, that opened up a doorway for us. And those are our ancestors. Those are those people that came before us and did the things that they did so that we would be able to do the things that we're doing right now. And so before we start asking for assistance really from all of the orishas, we start with asking for assistance from our ancestors or our parents. Just like now, like before, when you get here as a human being, before you ever even have a concept of God, mom is the first God. Mom is the first God because she's literally feeding you, right? And if not for her feeding you, you wouldn't survive, right? And so we start off with giving thanks to our mothers and giving thanks to our fathers and giving thanks to those people who made those sacrifices and did those things that we did. So when we start going into the Mojubas, the first thing that we start doing is we give thanks to God Almighty, which would be Olodumare. Y'all ever heard me say Olodumare?
Yeah.
Okay. Olodumare is the energy that exists in everything. So those of you who was here at the first class, we had this conversation on exactly what Olodumare means. So I'll kind of go back for those people who wasn't here in the first class. So the word for God Almighty that we use in Yoruba is Olodumare, which actually means the pot that never empties. That's kind of confusing. Like, why would I call God a pot that don't empty? Interesting, right? Well, it says when they talking about the pot that doesn't go empty, they're talking about the energy from the universe, the energy that powers everything. And so it says that's the energy that never goes empty, that never runs out. That's why we call it Olodumare. But for us right now, we'll just call it God. So a lot of times you'll go, Mojuba Olodumare. That's to pay homage to everything in existence. And then it'll say Mojuba Olodum, which is I pay homage to the owner of heaven. Right. Anybody got notebooks in here? Nobody put a notebook with y'all? Nobody. I think I told some of y'all to bring a notebook. So y'all can write some of these down. Y'all might want to know what some of these are. Right. So it's like Majuba Olodumare, Majuba Olodum, Majuba Dun, Iduna, Mokwe Dun, Majuba Ashedani, Akoda. These are holy ancestors. Majuba Baba Tobi, Majuba Iya Tobi. That means after we paid homage to all of the cardinal energies, the first one that we thank is our mother and our father. Mojuba Baba Tobi, Mojuba Iya Tobi. That's what that means. The next you might see Mojuba Oluwo or Mojuba Ajibona. Writing it down on that phone, that's gonna take you forever, bro. I think we need to get you some. Now, I got you, I believe you, but that's gonna take you forever. We're gonna get you some paper. Yeah. Anybody else need some paper? I have y'all want some paper and a pen? Look, mama got some paper and a pen in the back. Grab some paper and a pen. You with the snacks. Grab a pencil and some paper. And write some of it down so that you can remember it. You have to take it out of that. I only have a pad that you can rip out of it. Move back to there's some pins. You on your phone? Anybody else want paper? I this or a pen? I got a little pencil and paper so you can write some of these down. I need a pencil, bro. Sure. On the back and make sure I write this more paper in this pattern. So we're gonna go through some of these majuba and then I'll explain what they mean and why we're doing them, okay? So we got Majuba Lofi, Majuba Olodumare, Majuba Lofi, Majuba Olodum. Those are the three aspects of God. Olodumare, Olofin, and Olodum. Olodumare is the energy that encompasses everything. Olodum is the owner of heaven. Olofin would be the king of the land. Olodumare, Olofin, Olodum. Majuba Dun, Idun, is essentially like the right, the north, south, east, and west. Majuba Baba Tobi, Majuba Iya Tobi, those are your parents. Majuba Oluwo, Majuba Ajibona, those are your godparents. Majuba Baba Larisha, Majuba Iya Larisha, those are also your godparents. So depending on the way that you came into the culture. Some people don't have an Oluo yet. And Oluo is the person that deals with Ifa. Some people come into the culture with a godparent and Orisha. That would be your Babalosha or your Ialosha. So depending on the way that you do your Majuba, and this is everybody is a little bit different. And I think that the beauty in our culture and our religion that it takes into account that everybody had their own conversation with God before you got here. So you came here for your own particular purpose. So everybody's path isn't exactly the same thing. Some people come in and they go through Ifa first. Some people come in and they go through Orisha first. Some people come through and they go through dealing with Egun first. We talked about some of this in the first class, right? You remember this from the first class, right? That everybody's path isn't exactly the same. Yeah. Because it's really about what your conversation was with Olodumare. So maybe you came in and you had to get Alekis first, and you were dealing with Orisha more than anything. And the person who was assisting you and was the guide to assist you in your spiritual evolution was a priest of Orisha. And so that would be your Babalosha if it was a male, or your Ialosha if it was a female. If it was a Babalao or an Iyanifa, that would be somebody who deals with Ifa. So it would be your Oluo or your Ajabona are those godparents. So when you start going down this list of the who you're giving thanks to, the first people that you give thanks to are essentially your spiritual parents and your natal parents, because they're the people who are assisting you with going forward. And then even in life, when you look at it, when we talk about mom as the first God, it's mom who you go to, mom and dad who you go to for help with things. Before you get a chance to ask for, God, can you help me, please? Who you go to? Mama, right? And dad, if dad is around, hey dad, can you help me with some stuff? So we have to make sure that we always give thanks to those people those energies that help bring us to the world, even if we don't even have a great relationship with them. Because everybody don't have a great relationship with their parents that's here on earth, but they made the big sacrifice of doing what was necessary in order for you to get to the world. So we give thanks to them just for that factor. And if they're our connection to all of the ancestors that extend back beyond that, to our grandparents and our great-grandparents and our aunts and uncles and all of those people who assist us in going forward. And so I'm going to round out about to why this becomes so important, because when you go in front of an Orisha, or when you're going and you're asking for help, and when you start to do these Majubas, this is what gives you power. This is what gives the prayers that you're saying much more energy. Because when you learn your Majuba, when you learn to do these particular prayers, when you go to pray, it's not just you praying. It's like you and 1,000 different people behind you also praying with you. That's the reason why when we do these prayers, they become so powerful. So we won't go through that, because the Majuba is really done in 4 parts. So the first part is the part where you actually say in Majuba, which means I pay homage to. So I'm going to give you an example of what this is, because I done probably heard me say this a bunch of times, and I talk real fast, and so you don't know what I'm saying. And after I finish, then I'm going to go break down all of the things that I'm saying, okay? So this is how it would go, Jerry. Majuba Lofi, Majuba Lomare, Majuba Olum, Majuba Dun, I do, Moko do, Majuba Ashedami, Akoda, Majuba Baba told me, Majuba Ya told me, Majuba Oluo, Majuba Ajabona, Majuba Laka Laka, Majuba Omo Kekere, Majuba Obi, Majuba Okuni, Majuba Bobo, Awo, Majuba Ibai, Ibai Bontu. That's the first part, right? And the second part is what we call the Ibayes. This is a really powerful part. So for my personal one, it'll be.
Hey, Baba.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, can we see the bottom of the chart? You may have to readjust the camera. I'm just responding to the chat. People are having trouble seeing
no
the bottom of the
chart. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. So that's the let me point this down here for a second. But I'm actually going to go through when I get a second, and I'm going to write all of this out so that you guys can see with the what I'm saying, and so that you can have a chance to actually write it down in some notes. All right.
It might be better. It might be easier if you pull it back towards the china cabinet behind you. That might give us a little. No, the opposite way. There you go. All right, and bring it a little bit closer. A little bit to the right. A little bit closer.
Yeah.
Yep. And no, back where you had it. Right back where you had it. Yes, sir. And I can kind of see that pretty clearly. And if you can't see that pretty clearly, you may just want to turn your phone to the side or something like that in the chat, because I can see that pretty clearly.
Y'all, I'm gonna come back to this in a few minutes as well, because I'm gonna write some other things up there so that you actually know how to spell what we're saying. So the first part is called the Majuba. Those are all the like the big energies. Majuba, Lofi, Majuba, Lofimadi, and the parents. And then we get to what's called the Ibayes. Right now, these are very important because this is the part where you actually start to give thanks to your ancestors, okay? Or the ancestors in general. So these can be people that were in your family, whose names you know, but it's a lot of times these are also what we call venerated priests, people who were here that either assisted us personally in our spiritual evolution or were the parents spiritually of the people who helped us in our spiritual evolution. So that when you are calling up these people, when you're calling up these spirits, it's like they standing right there. These are all of the priests that even if you don't know anything, if you don't know too much, they know. And so they're standing right there behind you to help fortify everything that you say. So the phrase is Ibaye Torun. So we're gonna write that out too. Okay. The first part is the Majuba. The second part is what we call the Ibayes. How you spell that is Iba, Yay. And then the last word is To, Orun, where it kind of gets compressed into one word, Torun. It's To, Orun. So this means I pay homage to. Ibaye Torun is saying give praise to this person in heaven, or this spirit in heaven. That's what the Ibaye Torun, to the person that's in heaven. So you would say for me to be Ibaye Torun, Susanna Gatari, or sometimes we shorten it. You can say just Ibaye, and then you can say the Torun part when you get to the end. So it'll be Ibaye Susanna Gatari, Ibaye Badi, Ibaye Continu, Ibaye Ayambe Kumoba, Ibaye Salako, Ibaye Adisa Mokaran Wale, Adabile Fe, Ibaye Teddy Holiday, Ibaye Carlos Koyazo, Ibaye Iwonidote, Ibaye Ifamarote. These are all priests that have affected my spiritual evolution. So I'm calling on them to be standing behind me when I'm doing my prayers. Then you get to those people who may be in your family. So for me, it'd be Ibaye Joan, Ibaye Nettie, Ibaye Charles, Ibaye Delala Alexander, Ibaye Ruth, Ibaye Ellen Taylor, Ibaye Terrence Taylor, and I go down the line of all of those ancestors that I get the end. You say, at the end, Ibaye Bonturum, Ibaye Bonturum is how you say, I'm paying homage to all of the ancestors and all of the people in heaven. And the reason why you're doing this is because now they standing with you as you saying these prayers. So you got to think about it. So now I got these big energies, and now I got 30 different ancestors that's standing behind me. And so then the next part is called the Kinka Mashe, right? So we're going to get to the next part. So this part is called Kinka Mashe. Essentially says I'm calling on the Ashe of those living people. That's the King of Ashes, are all of the people who have helped you in your spiritual evolution that are still alive today. Those might be the priests from the temple that you belong to. That might be other priests that you know. And sometimes they're not even always priests, because everybody's got some Ashe, but you're adding in the assistance that is not just me standing here saying these prayers, but it's all these other people. So by the time you get to the end of it, it's really like 100 people, right? So for me, Majuba Lofi, Majuba Lodumade, Majuba Olorun, Majuba Dun, I Dun, Mokwe Dun, Majuba Ashidani, Akoda, Majuba Baba Tobi, Majuba Iato, Majuba Oluwa, Majuba Ajabona, Majuba Baba Larisha, Majuba Ilarisha, Majuba Dun, Majuba Larisha, Majuba Bobo Awo Majubi by Montreal by Sudan Terry by the Navy by Continental, by a young Mobaba Salako by Decent Mokran Wale, the Lake Fay by Teddy Holiday, by Carlos Collazo, by Woody Tay by Forote by Shango, by Shango, by Oshabi, by Secretary by Yalu, by Baba Lafi, by Mom Timmy, by Mami, by Mary, by Omiloki, by Omidina, by Deshla, by Sholarami, by Losuni, by ODB, by Yajo, by Open Run, by me, by Gloria Prime, by a Boko Egun Iami, that means all of my ancestors, of my mother, Ibai Boko Egun Babami, all of the ancestors of my father, Ibai Botu. Kimashe Risa, Kimashe Keshade, Kimashe Oshun for me, Kimashe Lubabi, Kimashe Ulati, Kimashe Obeyani, Kimashe Sefi Ala, Kimashe Ogun Bimi. I might go through all of the priests that I know, because I'm adding them, they standing here with me too. Because it says that we all in here to make these prayers. We all here to make sure that whatever it is that I'm doing, that we have the blessing and the assistance of these energies to help us go forward, right? So then you get to the King of Mashe, right? And King of Mashe, like I say, Oshun for me, that's my mom, but she's also a priest. King of Mashe, Orisa, yeah, that's my mom's godmother, who's also a priest. King of Mashe, Omilade, that's my godmother that gave me my ladies, that's also a priest. So now, it's not just one priest that's standing here, it's 40 priests that's standing here. It's not just one ancestor that's standing here, it's 100 ancestors that's standing here. You understand what I'm saying? So that when you get into doing your prayers now, whatever you ask for, when you got a chorus of people behind you, how that's not gonna happen? Right? That's what gives the actual power and the energy to all of the things that we do. So sometimes people will tell you, just go pray. But they say, well, what do I say when I pray? Well, that's why we had Yom Kippur. So that's why we tend to learn these, and this is one of the things that you want to practice regularly when you get in front of your Orisha, or even if you're not in front of your Orisha, if you're just out in the world and you need some assistance, the thing that you can fall back on is starting with what we call Yom Kippur, because it's what calls all of the energies around to be standing there with you so that you have some assistance into what you're doing, so that you have some assistance in making sure that the prayers and the things that you need the universe to be aligning with you, that they're in alignment with you, okay? So right now I'm gonna open up for some questions real quick. Anybody got any questions before I go on to the next part?
Yeah, so if you don't know the name of ancestors, they ain't gonna show up?
No, I didn't say that. So this is what you want to do, right? The first thing is, remember the phrase, Ibaitum, the phrase would be Ibaye Bobo Egun Iami. Or you can say it in English. I pay homage to all of the ancestors of my mother. I pay homage to all of the ancestors of my father. So that means even if you don't know their name, but you calling on all, I need all of y'all that's connected to me to be standing here with me. Because a lot of us don't know all of our ancestors' names. For that matter, you know, if you are somebody that was born in the United States of America, more than likely you have some mixed lineage. You're not all black, you're not all white, you know, you might not be all Chinese if you're Chinese, right? So it's to say that we have a lot of spirits and ancestors that are in our bloodline that are working with us. And we don't always know their names, but that doesn't mean that we can't pay respect and pay homage to them and that they're not working on our behalf, okay? So yeah, it's not, I think that it's always good to, when you know a name, to call that name, because our understanding is that whenever you are praying for your ancestors, it's considered like spiritual currency. It's like money in heaven. So every time you call a name, they get stronger, right? And so the stronger that they are in heaven, the stronger they have the ability to assist you here on earth. And so conceptually, the first place we start is giving thanks to our ancestors. But you know, pictures and movies and those type of things, that's relatively new technology. People didn't necessarily have pictures 400 years ago, but they still had the ability to give thanks and venerate their ancestors and the people who came before them. The way that they did that was through speech. And so
this is stronger than those altars people be dead set on you gotta have.
I mean, well, I'll say that there's a mixed bag with that. I think that they work hand in hand with each other, because the representation of the altar is to give you a physical representation of that person that's still that no longer exists on earth, but that they're still here. And that's what we're doing when we're doing ancestral veneration. It says that a spirit does not cease to exist. It just changed form. So when a spirit is no longer in your body, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist anymore. It's just not animating your body. And so when we were no longer able to know exactly where the spirit is in the body, we know that by calling their names, that vibration still exists on the earth, right? So, because when you say it out loud, that's a vibration. That means that it still exists here. So before there was a picture or a video, the way that we ensured that our ancestors still had a presence on earth was saying their names. And so the more often we said their names, even after they had transitioned, the stronger they were. Now imagine when not just you were saying their names, but you grandchild number 1, you grandchild number 2, and you grandchild number 35, and you grandchild number 1002. Got that many, you know. And they're all saying your name after you transition from here. That means that the energy of your spirit still exists here. The vibration of your spirit still exists here on earth. So the more that you're calling that spirit, the more people who are calling that particular name, the stronger that energy here is on earth. So when you call that spirit over and over and over again, when you assure that that energy still exists, then it has the ability to assist you here on earth. So when you think about the concept of what we do, and if I'm a godparent, right, and I have a lot of godchildren, and all of those godchildren after I pass away are saying, oh, I give thanks to my Oluwa, such and such and such. I'm still looking over them. As long as people are calling my name on earth, my energy still exists. I'm still looking down at you from heaven. Hey, what y'all doing out there? Oh, you need some help? Okay, I got you. And the more people are calling on me, the stronger that spirit is going to be. Questioning
so
that.
That's even if you've never, let's say that you're an orphan, you never met your parents. You still call their ancestors, like all the ancestors of my mother, all the ancestors of my father.
Absolutely.
And you still, so how do you weed out if there's any, like, you know,
the negative ones?
Yeah.
So that's a great question. What happens when you've had negative spirits in your life? Well, there's a part of ancestral veneration. When you're praying for your spirits, you're praying really for their light, peace, and evolution. And so the deal with that is everybody ain't always a great person. And when they transition,
Right.
what you're asking for is for that spirit to be elevated, for that spirit to not come back to the earth being a terrible person. Sometimes we don't learn all of the lessons that we need to learn in life, and sometimes we still learning them as we transition. And so what you're doing is when you don't know who those spirits are, you're actually praying for that evolution and upliftment. And so that the positive ones, the ones that are going to be your aid, your guide, or your protective spirit are the ones that manifest themselves to assist you in going forward. And that the ones that are negative spirits, that they stay away from you, that the positive spirits help to push the negative spirits away and help those negative spirits to elevate so that they can come back and be a constructive energy on earth.
Okay.
So thank you for the question. Got some other questions? No?
So whenever you pray for the light and evolution of the whole line, so basically what you're saying is like the positive spirits are gonna shun the negative spirits so that they can come and work for you.
I mean, ideally, the positive spirits help to lift up the negative spirits to help to lift them and elevate them.
Okay.
So that goes into a sort of another conversation, but I think that that's appropriate. So let's talk about specifically ancestral veneration. And so one of the ways that we do, you were asking about those altars with the pitches and all the other things. Well, that's I think that's become very important. Absolutely, get you some snacks. So ancestral altars, where we actually go and pray to them. The way that we activate those altars are by calling their names. So when you go and you set up the altar, it's not that it's just for specifically just for random energies or random spirits. You're setting up that altar to call certain specific spirits to you. Those spirits that are related to you through blood from your natal line, and those spirits that are the positive spirits, the aids, the guides, and those protections. Those are the ones that you're asking to come and live at this particular altar that you have in your house. Now, even with that, those spiritual altars tend to pull energy. And so, yes, it is the potential for a spirit that is not the most positive spirit to be in that area. So this is the reason why oftentimes you'll find that there are candles. You ever notice that in ancestral altars, there seems to be a lot of candles. It seems to be one of the few things. It's because we're constantly offering light and upliftment to those spirits so that we can uplift them on the other side, and that they can assist us and give us light, clarity, and upliftment here in the physical world. And so that would be the thing. That's why the candlelight is such an important offering when it comes to spirit, is because what we're offering them is light in the darkness. Question in the back?
Oh, I was gonna say what you were about to say.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's what that is. That's one of the main reasons that we offer candles. So let's talk a little bit about what you're referring to in terms of the ancestral altars. How do you set up an ancestral altar? Anybody got a good idea for how to set up an ancestral altar? She said she got one. You got one. So what do you do if you set up an ancestral altar?
So you would get your desk that you would put. You would offer your food. You would light a candle.
Okay.
You would go and sit next to it for a while, put a picture up, and put some things that you would like to offer to you.
That was very good. Very good. How about you?
You put glass in the water.
Okay. So what I heard was glasses of water.
You gotta have some libation.
Across. Gotta have some libations, some water across. Okay.
I have a question about the libations.
Okay.
So do we automatically just put that, or do we wait to ask them for stuff before we reward them with that?
Which libation are you talking about? The water or the liquor? Liquor. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that can be that's one of those things that can change depending on the circumstance.
What are libations? What are libations?
Libation is a liquid offering, you might say. So a libation actually can be water.
Mm-hmm.
So when you first go to start doing prayers, you will offer libation. So I'll give you an example of what that is. I think it's all you get. So all you need is a little water, as we like to call omi in Yoruba. And when you're giving a libation, you're essentially cooling off whatever it is that you're doing, so that you can have a good conversation with it, so they're not hot, right? So Yoruba would say omi tutu, una tutu, ana tutu, ile tutu. Omi tutu means fresh water or cool water. Una tutu means cool the road. Ana tutu means cool the path. Ile tutu means cool the house or cool the earth or the ground. And so that everything is cool and fresh before you go forward. So that's the basic libation. Omi tutu, una tutu, ana tutu. And we like to do it when we have it in what's called the Iba or calabash, which has its own holy sacrament, where you say Omi tutu, una tutu, ana tutu, ile tutu. And then, depending on what energy you're talking to, so if you were talking to the ancestors, you would say tutu egun. So Omi tutu, una tutu, ana tutu, ile tutu, tutu egun. Y'all got that? All right. So y'all know what it means?
And so you can just do that at any point in time?
You can do that at any point in time, because the ancestors are everywhere.
Yeah.
The eguns, the spirits are everywhere. Everywhere you go, those spirits is with you. And so even if you're not in front of an altar or you're not in front of a shrine, you can always ask for the blessing of your ancestors. Why? Because we know they exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
We may not have met these Orishas. I'm saying, I know Ologundudu exists, but I ain't met him. I understand that Oshun exists. You know, I kind of met her. She didn't came to see me in the Bay and stuff, but you know, it's like when we know that the river exists. We know that the mountain exists. So we know that these Orishas, the energies that are incarnated about that exist, but we don't always get to have a conversation with them. But these ancestors, you can talk to them. So go to them first. Yes?
Can you say, well, I kind of was under, like, I have this belief that the Orishas are like my ancestors, because if they were people that lived at one point and down the line, like they are my ancestors.
That's so.
Right?
Yeah, you going deep on the class today. You gonna go deep on the class today. All right. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
Our Orisha's ancestors To some degree, yes, Orisha are considered ancestors when we specifically talk about Orisha, because Orisha means a selected head.
Okay.
So an Orisha would be considered the most, how do I phrase this? So Orisha would be a person that came to the earth that was such a incarnate representation of this energy that
Okay.
it was elevated to being a deity.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's just like you could have 30 different versions of Shango that came to the earth. But as a man, it was like he incarnated as a man. So he might have been Oramion, which is one of the kings of Oyo, who was considered an incarnate version of Shango. That Shango was here walking around on the earth living. And now eventually he left, and another version of Shango might be here. Same thing with Oshun or Obatala. So to some degree, you can consider Orisha, but Orisha is also beyond just being an elevated spirit, as Orisha encompasses so many different things. So you would say that, an example, they say Oshun is a representation of the blood that flows through your veins.
Okay.
Oshun is also the representation of the river. But Oshun will also be the representation of a woman that just walked in here.
Right.
In a particular, you see what I'm saying? So that energy lives in so many different aspects that you can't say that it's just this one particular person.
Gotcha.
All right.
Okay.
But that was a really good question. Anybody else? That got some good ones. She went deep
I have
on
a
it.
question. Okay, you said the different versions. Can you talk about how Eshu and how usually the shrines are outside, but here, like the version of Elegba,
Okay, so yeah,
it's not really traditional.
well, that's debatable. So here's the thing about Orisha, right? I wish you had been at the first class.
Me too, I had to work.
So when we talk about Orisha, Orisha is like taking an element energy that exists in the world and bottling it up and bringing it into your house. Right? So think about like when you receive the Orisha Yemonja, it's like you just took the whole ocean and you bottled it up and put it in a pot and you brought it into your home. So the thing about Orisha is that Orisha exists in the world, whether we agree to the fact that it exists or not. Like Orishas don't really need us. The ocean don't really need us. The river don't really need us. And we don't have to agree that it exists, but it does, right? And so a person who wants to go pay homage to that Orisha, that energy, you literally can go to the ocean. You don't got to be a priest to go give thanks to Yemonja at the ocean. But she's not in your house. But if you want to go talk to Yemonja all the time, maybe you don't want to take a trip to the ocean every day. Maybe you know what I'm saying? So that those Orishas and those energies are like compartmentalized and brought into your house. So when you refer to Eshu, Eshu is an energy they'll tell you Eshu is in all places at all times. Wherever you go, there's Eshu.
A messenger.
Right. Because he goes in all of the different places. It says wherever there's grass, there's Eshu. Right. So in that, it's like, well, if Eshu is a energy that lives at a crossroads, is an energy that deals with decisions, I can go down to the crossroads to talk to Eshu, but maybe I don't want to go down to the crossroads all the time. Maybe I want to bring his energy into my house so that I can talk to him regularly. But the thing about certain energies, because everything is different things, that some energies can cause more conflict than others. And so Eshu specifically is known as a deity that has the ability to cause miscommunications or potential conflicts, because Eshu deals with what they might say the Ajagun, which is all of the good energies, and the Ajogun, which is all of the negative energies. He's kind of neutral. So when you bring him into your house without making sure that he's calmed down and he's cool, maybe he'll cause some issues. So traditionally, they'll leave in Yoruba land, Eshu will stay outside the house, right? But we were talking about how you have a particular energy that can incarnate on the earth as like a human being, right? And so that's where you get into what we might call a Legba. A Legba would be more the human kind of housebroken version of Eshu. Instead, so a Legba can come into the house and not necessarily cause problems. He's a little bit easier to appease. He's housebroken. So here in the United States, you'll find that a Legba is usually living inside of the house, but we have outside versions of Eshu as well. And that's really for any Orisha, just like I can go talk to Obatala at the mountain. I don't necessarily need to have the Orisha Obatala at my house, but if I want to make it convenient for myself, then Obatala will be here. Yemonja will be here, Oshu will be here. Is that okay? Okay. Question?
So when you said, I remember you were talking about following up energy and bringing it right. So the altar for the ancestors, do you have to have something from the ancestor for the altar?
Well, generally, an ancestral altar will start with at least 1 glass of water. Here in the United States, you'll find ancestral altar usually set up with either 1 glass of water, 3 glasses, 5, 7, or 9. And from a traditional standpoint, the ancestral altar is not generally a glass of water. There's a consecrated version of the ancestors that you'll receive. And so I think that both of them are effective. In terms of having an ancestral altar that is set up in the house with the glasses of water, that's what you might consider an unconsecrated ancestral altar, meaning that nobody, no priest, and no other person has to come help you set that up. You can set that up for yourself and you can do prayers for it. I think that the first 2 sacrifices that you make are time and space, meaning the time that you devote to actually giving thanks to the ancestors, like you actually took your time to say, hey, I just want to take time out of my day to ask you for blessings and clarity and understanding and assistance. And then the space that you devote. So space is a sacrifice because it's limited, right? Like, but however big your house is, when you set aside a space for those ancestors, those are their space. So that in and of itself starts to create the altar. Now, what do you do in order to make it an altar? Well, for us here, we usually will take a glass of water and dedicate that glass of water to Olodumare, God Almighty, and then dedicate the subsequent glasses of water to the ancestors. And so this gives them a physical place to reside in, so that we know we can say, this spirit that I know exists, but I can't see, I now have a space for me to go and have a conversation with you. I'm giving you this, your own particular space in my space, so that we know that this is for you, and then I can come and bring you offerings, I can come and bring you food, I can come and bring you light, I can come and bring you whatever it is that that spirit might be asking in order to make it strong, okay? So those altars can be made up of a variety of different things, depending upon where you're coming from in terms of your understanding of that ancestral altar. So like for me, I have an ancestral altar that's which you would call an agun stick, is most commonly referred to here, or opaiku. And it's a physical representation of my ancestors. And so it's not even a glass of water, it's a stick that has been consecrated and it's fed, and I go and I put food in front of it and water in front of it and liquor in front of it, and I talk to my ancestors there. And through a system of divination, which is a way for us to talk to these energies and that they talk back, and I can actually talk to them and get answers from them. The Boveda, or the ancestral altar, the spiritual altar with just the glasses, you don't really do divination to that particular altar. You would kind of just do prayers and meditation there. And those can be, glasses, it can be a bunch of pictures, it can be an item that belonged to somebody that was special to them, that they transitioned, like it might be like a ring or a handkerchief or something that particular person, when they were alive, kept close to them and has their energy kind of connected to it. So those are all things that you use to put on the altar in order to focus that spirit's energy. Okay. Any other questions? That was a good one, thanks. Anybody in the back? No, no questions. Anybody there online? Y'all don't have no questions? Y'all want to come off the mute?
Yeah, I got a question, Bob.
What's going on, baby? What's your question?
All right. Now I heard one of the EIs and they'll talk about one of the ancestors that's negative, that transition. Not saying like that that ain't got no relationship with. Like it could be grandmother that you don't that wasn't, or grandfather that you didn't bond with, that wasn't good with you, and they transition. How do, like she said, how do we like balance out that positivity with that person that transition? If y'all wasn't good on earth, how can we be good at the afterlife to keep going and prosper?
Okay, repeat that question for me one more time. Just make it.
You know how say you ain't got a good relationship with your grandmother, y'all wasn't good, and then talk, and she transitioned. How can you better your relationship with that person, or is it good to better your relationship with that person while they in the afterlife as you're trying to move forward?
The way that you would do that really would just be praying for light, peace, and evolution for that spirit. And in certain circumstances, it may come up in a divination or a reading that certain things need to be done for that particular spirit. So that's really the great part about having the ability to not just communicate with these energies, but these energies communicate back. That's sort of like the beauty and Orisa tradition, is that you can ask a question and get an answer. So you may have a reading that tells you that there's a spirit that is upset or is having some issues, or can even potentially be causing you some problems. Sometimes the issues that we have in life can be caused by an imbalance with a particular energy or particular spirit, and that spirit needs to be appeased. So if it was somebody who you didn't get along with in life, maybe you get along with them in death. Maybe you have to make offerings to them of sweet foods or something that they particularly liked when they were on earth. That's one way of helping to assuage the energy of that spirit. And I think that every circumstance really needs to be determined by your individual circumstance. So some spirits who may seem like upset or angry, maybe because it was a negative energy, or maybe they just specifically had an issue with you specifically, right? So I think it depends on what it is, how you deal with that at that time.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you, Paul.
No problem. You got any other questions from the online audience?
No.
Yeah. You got a question in the back?
Why do you like liquor and spit it out?
Oh, that's a good question. So, liquor is called OT. That's the Yoruba word for it, and it means strong spirit. And liquor is considered to be very, very strong, and it doesn't go bad. So, orange juice, you leave it out for a few days, what's going to happen? It's going to go bad. Apple juice, going to go bad. Even water, if you leave it out for too long, is going to evaporate. But it says that liquor, just like spirit, doesn't expire. It doesn't go bad. So it's a representation of keeping that energy strong, or keeping the spirit strong. So when you see me take some of this liquor and I spit it on the Orisa, it's me giving them an offering to keep them strong. All right. Other questions? That was a good one, Jude. Thanks. And there's a prayer that goes that Eniboti Tiki says that spirit does not, my Ashe doesn't expire. That liquor doesn't expire, but now let my energy expire. Question in the front.
How would you bring a spirit into your home?
How would you bring a spirit into your home? There's a lot of different ways to do that. That's a good one, Jasper. Hold on in the back. Hold on. Jasper's gonna make me think. Okay, so there's you can bring sweet things. Sometimes there's works that you do, like you might clean your house spiritually, and then you might come back and clean your house spiritually with what we would call a sweetener. So Jasper, that's a really good one. That's complicated. Okay, so the first thing I think in that circumstance is you can bring a spirit into your house in a bunch of different ways. A spirit can be attached to something physical. A spirit can be attached to something that belonged to somebody who passed away, right? And so that's one way of picking up other stuff and bringing it into your house. That's a way to bring the spirit in. There are certain prayers and things that you can do in order to call spirits to you. Ideally, you want to call the positive spirits to you and not the negative spirits to you. So that's another way of bringing a spirit into your house. When you set up an ancestral altar and you start calling for these spirits to arrive, they show up because they hear you. So those are ways to bring spirits into your house as well. Okay? All right.
Are your Lakis a spirit?
Alekis aren't a spirit. Your Alekis are a physical representation of an energy, right? So like your Oshun Aleki is a physical representation of the Orisha Oshun. Shango Aleki is the same for that. These Alekis, me personally, are Alekis from when I was initiated as a priest of Egungun, which means I'm an ancestral priest as well. So these beads represent my connection to that energy, but it's not the energy in and of itself.
Speaking of Egungun, can you talk about how the difference between Egungun and Egbe and how people say Egbe can play tricks on you, how certain kids that have like behavioral problems, that's Egbe trying to get your attention?
So you want to jump down the rabbit hole? Okay, great. So that's another complicated one. So I got to explain what those things are. So a gungun will be considered your ancestors or those spirits from your ancestral line. Egbe is considered, Egbe really means society of friends, but they would say your friends in heaven. So the understanding is that before any of us come from heaven to earth, so to speak, we all have a conversation with God. And then we tell God why we coming down here. And God's like, okay, you know what? That's a good idea. Here's your walking papers, and off you go. It says, but before you went and had that conversation with a Lord Dumari in heaven, you was doing some other things. It says that heaven is very similar to earth, right? And so you have friends in heaven, just like I'm sitting here in a group of all you guys, and I got friends and family that are here, so I have friends and family in heaven, and that would be a representation of your Egbe. And so those friends and family that you may have had in heaven, you might have had to deal with this. This might have been your best friend in heaven, but now you're down on earth and you got another best friend. And it says that the best friend in heaven is saying, hey man, but I'm your best friend. What you doing down there with these people? And so that they can cause certain issues in your life if they feel like you have forgotten about them. So because you get down here and you don't remember these friends and these family that you had to have, you doing your thing. And so your Egbe or your society of people up there, they can get a little irate to some degree. And you may have to appease them. And so the spirit of Egbe is usually represented as a very childlike spirit. And so you see them in children having fun, and sometimes children being a little mischievous as well can be a representation of Egbe. So one of the offers you guys do is called an Egbe party, and to just give a party for kids for no reason, where you fill them up with candy. It's like it reminds me of like Hansel and Gretel, or where the witch is feeding the kids and trying to get them fat to eat them, but you just feed them so that you appease that particular spirit, to let them know that you haven't forgotten about them and that you're still making offerings and still doing what you need to do to make them happy. And there's a lot of different aspects to Egbe as well, because you can have an aspect of your Egbe that really was like your wife or your husband in heaven, and how you would have to appease that aspect of Egbe is a little bit different than the childlike aspect of Egbe. That was a great question. Yeah. Anybody else? Y'all send me down the rabbit hole. So, yes.
Yes, there's different ways of working with eguns and spirits that are alive and well. Some good, some not so good, and it's something that you sit with and with someone who's experienced with that will give you some of the teachings to make it easier for you to work with those spirits and have the spirit work for you in a positive way. And you can be taught how to work with the spirits. And if you feel that they're negative or doing things that they should not do, there's remedies for that. And you can consult for that as well. You can consult with Ifa, or you can consult with someone who works in those areas.
Absolutely. Thank you for that input. So it is definitely important to have somebody who can assist you by being your spiritual guide. And so when you have somebody who is considered your godparent, your Oluwo, your Ajibona, your Madrina, Padrino, Eolosha, Babalosha, we get all these different titles, but their job is to assist you in your spiritual evolution, not to be the person that is like, I'm like the person that's your godparent is not God. They're there to help you and give you the tools and the things that you need in order to assist yourself in your spiritual evolution. So what the EI is referring to in the back is having somebody there who, when these things are unfamiliar to you, that can help guide you to make sure that you are in a safe space, that if there are things going on that you are unfamiliar with or that is overwhelming, that you have some other support to help guide you through that. And I think that that's very, very important to that as we step out into this journey, that you have people to help you there. Question in the back.
Why do we do the bimbays?
You said why? Why do we do the bimbays? Okay, big question. So for those people who don't know what a bimbay is a ceremonial drumming. And it is usually done to give, it's like a party for the Orishas. It's a party for the spirits. And you know, what's a party without music and without some dancing? And so it is a party where the generally sacred drums are played, and we're singing specific songs that are familiar to those energies of the Orisha, so that they can come down and have a party with us and dance with us, and we can ask them for their blessing and their assistance as we go forward. That's what a bimbe is. Yes.
Is there any type of like underworld or Styx or a river of Styx? And what would you have to do on Earth to go there?
Got you. Jasper's got all of the big questions. Okay, so if the underworld would be considered heaven, there's no big distinction between the negative part of it and the positive part of it. It says that as above, so below. So heaven would be similar to the world that we live in, right? And so that there's no particular, oh, I'm going to a place of hellfire and brimstone. So we all transition, Jasper. The thing is that, you know, none of us actually gets out of here alive. We're all gonna, at some point, we have to make that transition to the other side. And that's the reason why it's not the biggest thing to be afraid of, because the spirit doesn't stop existing. Now, would it be considered a river Styx, you say? The river Styx, I think, is an analogy, meaning something that's not a physical thing, but is a way to phrase things so that you understand. And that there is a transition that you go through from being alive to being dead. Okay, so I think that everybody has to go through that transition. So yeah, you might say that we all go past the river Styx. If you're looking at it from the Orisha perspective, the riverboat man will be considered a guy named Aganju. He's considered the riverboat man who takes you across the river from life into death. So you can say that. The other way of looking at it is a deity named Oya. And Oya is also the Orisha that we consider to help you when you transition from life to death. And that you know how when we go past the cemetery, you always see us do this? All right, well, what we're doing is we're saying we're paying homage to the Orisha Oya, who lives at the entrance to the cemetery. And it says that Oya is the Orisha who carries your last breath. So she's the deity, she's known as the deity of the wind. And her physical place on the body is the lungs. And it says that when you transition, it's Oya that carries your last breath from one side to the other. So she's not necessarily going over a river, but she's taking your spirit from one side to the other. Okay. Anybody else? That was a good one. Yeah.
How you also Ifa?
How do you Oshe Ifa?
Yeah.
That's a big question. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to answer all of that right on this, but I'll give a class on that, how to Oshe Ifa. So let me explain what that is. So if you have your hand of Ifa, so that's the first thing you got. Before you go Oshe Ifa, you have to receive your hand of Ifa, which is a ceremony where you receive the physical representation of Orunmila, who is the deity of Ifa. And when you receive the physical representation of Orunmila, every 4 to 7 days, you should go and you should sit down and do prayers with your Ifa. And so how you would do that would be to take your Ifa from wherever Ifa is perched and sit down on the floor with him. And there's some prayers when you open them up and say, hey, Ifa, how you doing? Making sure you here. You here? Great. Listen, I want to give you some thanks and some praises and maybe give you a little things that you like, which is usually palm oil or Epo. And you might give them a little gin because you felt like to get a little sauced up. And then at the end of it, right, after you greased them up and made them all nice and shiny and black, and you talked to him and you said your prayers, whatever it is you need to say, then you ask him through basic divination if everything is okay. And that's an Oshe Ifa. So you use 4 pieces of Obiabata or cola nut, and you would do a divination. And depending on what the letters of the divination is, tell you what you do. Oh, things ain't good. I need you to give me some more gin. Or things ain't good. I need you to give me some more fish, or so forth and so on. Or everything is good. Go about your business, and I'll see you in a week. Yeah. So that's me paraphrasing what an Oshe Ifa is. But we're gonna have a lesson on that, so I can teach you how to do that. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Questions? I say she like you need that glass.
It's a 4-day calendar, and as an American, I'm like, huh?
Yeah. So you can work. So I have mixed opinions on that. I have children that are in school. I'm on a 7-day week. I tend to do my personal things with my Ifa on a Sunday. I do think that if you have the ability to use the 5-day Orisha calendar, you definitely can feel free to do that. I just find that kind of hard to keep up with sometimes for me personally, right? I don't think that you always have to Oshe on your 5th day. That is the day of Oshe 5. But if your calendar and your schedule says that, let me do this one time a week, and you're regularly talking to your 5, it's going to be just as effective.
Orisha got days, right, Bob?
Orisha does have particular days that are associated with it, yeah, but it also depends on the calendar that you're going on to. Once again, if you're going on what's called the Asheshe calendar, which is really like a 5-day week, it repeats you have a certain particular Orishas. You have maybe like 3 or 4 Orishas that have a particular day. So it's like 3 or 4 Orishas that you worship on one particular day. Right. And then that goes and that's broken up into like 2 different sets of 4. But if you're going on the Gregorian calendar, what we do, the 7-day calendar, those don't necessarily, those particular days that are on the church, they're not going to line up with each other. So like if you're going on the Lukumi calendar, it'll be more like Labor on a Monday, Ogun on a Tuesday, so forth and so on during the particular days of the week. But there's way more than 7 Orishas. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So there are going to be Orishas that are going to kind of overlap, and there's some Orishas that from the Lukumi pantheon don't even have a specific day of the week that's associated with them, but they have a day in the year that's associated with them. So you'll have like Yemiya's day or Oshun's day or Babalu Aye's day. You see what I'm saying? And so you tend to observe those specific holidays as opposed to doing it on a weekly calendar. No. Question in the back.
On those specific days, that when we have the days?
Those are days sometimes when a lot of people have been based. That may not be when I have on my been based personally, but in different sections and cultures, yeah, on those days, you'll have people that have a bimbe on Oshun Day, they'll do a bimbe for Oshun. Yemonja's Day, a bimbe for Yemonja. So, good question, anybody? Yeah, we got our own Orisha holidays. We may need to put the calendar up so that we can observe them, just like you have, the Jewish has a holiday calendar, we got a Christian holiday calendar, you got Easter and Christmas. Well, we got our own holidays too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions? Comments? Nobody wants to know more about how to pray?
Talk to
him.
So talk to him.
Oh, well, I mean, I am talking to you, but I'm checking it too.
So, for those of us who, let's say that don't have time to go in front of the altar, the Kiko machine and stuff, like, is there, like, let's say that some of us are just in the routine of doing like bedtime prayers. Like, let's just say that that's all that we have the time for. It's just to get a little prayer in before bed. That's it. So what would you recommend in that way? What would you, how would you?
I think
call
that's
on-
a perfect time to start practicing the Majuba.
Oh, okay.
Because that's a way that once you start practicing it regularly, it'll become part of your memory. So you can say it whenever you need to. And if you
Right.
pray, like if you pray, do those prayers before bed every night, then when you're in a situation somewhere, maybe in the street, and something's not going right, immediately it comes to you. And so that you can call up these ancestors and these spirits and these energies around you immediately to help you. And, you know, I've been doing this my entire life. There's never been a point where I wasn't a Orisha practitioner. And there's been so many times, especially me growing up in New York, that I had to call my ancestors and my spirits to be walking with me in the situation. There was some nights where I was walking down some dark streets by myself, and I wasn't, you know, always the biggest person, you know what I mean? So those are the times when you're calling on these ancestors and these spirits and these energies that you can't see around you to be walking with you. And I always got home safe. Things always worked out the way that they were supposed to. So I know that these spirits are there.
So would you say that, like, say that we wanted to start with just like the 3 to get it memorized, and then could we do that and then move on to the next 3, and then move on to the next 3 after we got the first 3? Okay, and then keep
you do the first
like
set, then the next set, then the next set, and and you can even just do a little bit of each one.
Baba, what's the set of Majubas again?
The set of Majubas. So the first part is called the actual Majubas.
Right.
And then the next part is for the ancestors, that would be called your Ibayes. And then the last part would be the Kinkamashes. And then after that, the 4th part would be you actually talking to the energy that you were referring to. So if you are doing Majubas to a particular Orisha, like take for instance, you got Eshu, right? And you're going to go talk to your Eshu. So before you go talk to the Eshu, you want to start with your Majuba. You're saying, before I'm coming to talk to you, Eshu, it's not just me, it's me and everybody else that's standing behind me that's coming to talk to you. So you go through all the Majubas. And when you get to the end, after the Kinkamashes, calling up the living people, now you're talking to Eshu. And so there are certain prayers that you're going to say to Eshu when you're asking him for his assistance or his guidance, right? And so we can kind of go through that. I was going to do that on another class where we're doing an actual OB divination class. So y'all stay tuned for that. I will be doing a run through on the OB divination classes. So we'll get there to what the actual prayers are for when you're talking to Eshu specifically and you're talking to the OB, and then you're having a conversation between two of them. But we almost at 2 o'clock, so we ain't gonna go into that one. But I got you with it.
All right, well,
So
Mr.
Legba
Mhm.
and Elegua is the same name, right?
Yep.
So Eshu and Elegua, they all the same name.
All the same.
So if you said Legba is the more civilized version, isn't it better to talk to him instead of talking to Eshu, period?
Well, Alegba is an aspect of Eshu. And so when you're talking to Eshu, you're still talking to Alegba. And it really goes through the concept of there being different roads of a particular Orisha, or different aspects of a particular Orisha, and where that comes from. So I refer to Eshu because Eshu is in everything, as opposed to Alegba. But Alegba will be considered sometimes what you might consider a praise name. So even if you say you have Eshu, you can still refer to him as Alegba, because what Alegba actually means is man of power. So it's really like your right, it's exactly a title. Just like I say Eshu Odada means the Eshu of transformation. You see what I'm saying? So it's not so much of oh, this is 2 separate things. It's really the same thing. Just like you can bring a Legba into your house and the Legba can say, man, I'm about to cause some chaos up in here. But you're not referring it to Eshu, but it's still causing miscommunication and arguments in your house because a Legba hasn't been appeased. The Legba say, oh man, look, y'all been ignoring me, and I think I want to see some action up in here. Get y'all, and then so now you and your wife get into an argument, but over something that makes no sense. It's like, but really, you thought that I said red and I said black. And so now we in an argument, but it's because Alegba or that energy has allowed there to be a miscommunication between the two of y'all. So now you have to go appease Eshu so that he can ensure that the message that you're saying is the message that she's hearing so that we don't have no argument. You see what I'm saying?
What do you say whenever you pick up Ifa?
When you say, Ago Ifa Dide. Ago is A-G-O, Ifa Dide. So Ago essentially means stand and be present. It's almost like hi. Like I go, hey, I want to make sure that you're there. And then Ifa, and then D-Day means rise. And so here's the other part of that, because you need to get the other part. What do you say when you're putting your Ifa down? You know what you say when you put it back down on the ground? Say Joko. It means sit.
Ooh.
The Joko Ifa or Joko Eshu means sit. I'm placing you here. Question.
Are all the gods like separated, or is there like one big boss god?
There's one big boss god. Man, that's why I wish you was there at the original. In fact, just for that, here's a little graphic that I came up with. I'm gonna draw it up here for a second. Give me 1 second. So he said, Jackson said, I want to know about the big boss god. So the big boss god would be Olodumare. That's the energy that represents everything. So Olodumare would be considered you and me, the frogs, the trees, the cats, the grass, the ground that we stand on. So that's all Olodumare. Because Olodumare is the energy that powers everything in existence. And we're all just aspects of that. Okay? So that's the big boss. So I'm gonna write it out for you.
Baba, aren't you supposed to say something when you open up your hand at Ifa too?
Yeah.
What you say when you open up? Oh, my bad, bro.
So
Give me 1 second. Gotcha. Time is now 1:35. So, show you what this is. So you see this big circle right here? That's Olodumare. That's the big pot that holds everything. So that's the big boss, that's God Almighty. And everything else in here make up Olodumare. Okay? So what you see here is in this circle, everything is part of Olodumare. The plants, the animals, all of the elements, all of the people. And inside of that, which makes up Olodumare is what you have is these are all the Orishas. The reason why you have Ifa at the center is Ifa is the representation of Odu. Odu is the pattern of the universe that puts everything together. It says, but in the beginning of the universe, you have Orunmila and Eshu. It says that Orunmila is the witness of heaven. So the conversation that you have with God, he was sitting right there listening. It says, but while Orunmila was sitting there listening, Eshu was also there listening as well. So everything that Orunmila knows, Eshu knows as well, because they were there at the inception of existence. And then you have all of the rest of these Orishas. So you have like Umonja, who's a representation of the ocean or motherhood or the womb. You have Batala, who's a representation of the father or who's represented as a mountain. You have Shango, who's representative of thunder and lightning or fire. He deals with transition and transformation. Oshun, who is the representation of the river or procreation, actually life coming into existence actually comes with Oshun. Oya, who is a representation of the wind or transition or unexpected transition. Ogun, who is the representation of the iron or the ore and the earth, all of those things that make up the solidity of the universe. Olokun, who is the representation of the ocean or all of the water on the earth, and so forth and so on. There's actually might be considered 401 Orisha. So I can continue to go in all of this, but what you see with this particular graphic is this is a good representation of all of the Orishas make up. These are all parts of us that make up who we are, and they're all connected to each other. And just like the plants, the animals, the elements, the people, we're all connected to each other by what we call Odu, which is the pattern of the universe that connects everything together. Okay. But who is all of that? That's Olodumare. Now, the only problem with that is, how do you have a conversation with Olodumare? He everything. He the animals and the plants and the grass and the trees and the squirrels and the frogs. So you might say that Orisha are the compartmentalized versions of Odu or Olodumare. Did I answer that? Was that too complicated? Okay, cool. Everybody, y'all get that?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? We got somebody else that pulled us to the hey, all right. How about you guys? Can y'all see the graphic? Y'all can't even see that, huh? Hold on.
I took a picture of it.
Y'all can see it?
I took a picture of it.
Oh, I didn't even know y'all can see it from me. It looked like it. Am I looking at the wrong thing? Man, you know what? I thought this was on a different camera this whole time. It's the camera from the thing. I thought it was using this little thing up here. I'm tripping.
It's the camera from the computer.
It's the camera from the computer this whole time. I'm thinking it was this camera.
Yeah, I think I told you.
You're right. You did tell me. She told me. Hey, how y'all doing? I thought I was on a different camera this entire time. I've been pointing to this camera. Okay, so y'all could see that. Y'all the reason why they getting us to see that. But I wanna. This whole time I'd have been thinking I'm streaming with the camera. I can just disconnect this thing. So, who got pencil and some paper? Everybody got a pencil? Who's written down their Majubas? You wrote them down? Did everybody write them down? You need a pencil and paper so you can write it down?
I put in my notes.
You put it in your notes? Everybody else, anybody else need the Majubas? The basic Majuba? Anybody else?
I do, babe, hold on one second.
Okay.
I need it. Okay.
You need it too, Jasper? Well, you had a question. What's your question?
So was there like a big bang, or like how did the universe become?
Okay, Jasper's got all the big questions. Hold on before we get to the Majuba. So yeah, you would consider that there was a big bang. You're gonna get me into all the conceptual stuff, Jasper. So I'm gonna drop this jewel just for you, and then maybe me and you can have this conversation early time, right? So they say at the inception of the universe that Oshun is considered the youngest Orisha, but she was actually here first. This is why she's so important. Oshun is the deity that we commonly refer to as the deity of the ocean, but she's really the deity of expansion and contraction. It's gonna be a little old for you to really, a little bit young for you to really understand this, but it says that the beginning of the universe starts with expansion and contraction. So the expansion and contraction of the universe is what causes the Big Bang. And that's where everything explodes. So it's almost like breathing in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Bang. The Big Bang. And so at the beginning of the universe, it says that Oshun existed. For those people here who are adults in the room, you might understand when they say expansion and contraction is what creates the universe. And while Oshun was there at the beginning of the universe, and you can't do anything without a woman, is what they say. It says that because everything came out of the original chaos. It says that there was only darkness, and through expansion and contraction is how the chemical reaction that created the Big Bang that you're talking about, and everything else came from there. All right, so
In the mind of the all.
in the mind of the all. So we're gonna start. We're gonna do this with Juba one more time.
Oh.
Now you're gonna record it. You really need to write it down so you can see it. Okay. So I'm gonna go through my personal one. Now this can vary because other people use a different Mojuba. There are other things that you can add into this, but these are the basic ones. Mojuba Olofi, Mojuba Olodumare, Mojuba Olorun, Mojuba Dun, Aidun, Mokwe Dun, Mojuba Asheda, Ni Akoda, Mojuba Baba Tobi, Mojuba Iya Tobi, Mojuba Oluo, Mojuba Ajibona, Mojuba Baba Larisha, Mojuba Iya Larisha.
Time out, bro. I was gonna keep up with you going.
Am I going that fast?
Man, I'm still on Mario right now, man.
You still on the low tomorrow? Okay.
I got some of you, but
I must have came in late on that because
It's all good.
this is the one I got.
That's the one you got. Yeah, I see. Like I said, you sort of
when I
got.
came in, it was just 3 on the board.
Yeah, that's because I was just doing I was explaining that we pay homage to those parents first. But we're gonna go through all. And like I said, these can be expanded. I wouldn't say these things that I'm leaving out, but I just use the ones that I know are most familiar to me, and there are other ones that you can add to it. So Majuba Lofi, Majuba Lodumare, Majuba Lodumare, Majuba Lofi, Majuba Olodum. And those are really kind of interchangeable. Sometimes I say Majuba Lofi, Majuba Lodumare. Sometimes I say Majuba Olodum, Majuba Lofi, Majuba Lodumare. But these are what you might consider like the 3 aspects of God: Olodumare, Olofin, Olodum. Then Majuba Dun, Aidun, Mokwe Dun.
Say it one more time.
Mojuba Dun, D-U-N, Aye Dun, A-Y-E, D-U-N. Mokwe Dun is M-O-Q-U-E, D-U-N.
You can spell it again.
M-O-Q-U-E, D-U-N, Mokwe Dun.
Modupa?
No.
So D-U-N-I-Y-E.
Mokwe means thank you.
Yeah, I know.
Say it. So don't say it again.
Mojuba Dun,
Do
Aye Dun,
spell I-A-D.
A-Y-E,
A-Y.
and then D-U-N. And then Mokwe, M-O-Q-U-E, D-U-N.
So you said there's 3 aspects of God.
Yeah, those are 3 praise names for God: Olodumare, Olodun, Olorun, and Olofin. And I say that there's 3 aspects because like Olodumare means like God Almighty, everything in existence is the universe. Olorun is literally the owner of heaven, which you can consider to be Olodumare, but it's almost like separating God Almighty into a perspective that you could kind of talk to. You know, Lofin means really the owner of the land. And so, hey, God. So Lofin a lot of times is also the name of the current king of a particular land in Yoruba land. You can call that personally a Lofin. But when we're saying a Lofin in general is essentially representing the owner of the land and the owner of earth. So Olodumare, Olodun, Olofin, 3 praise names for God. Yes.
So Majuba, the 3 names for God.
Mm-hmm.
And so say that we wanted to start there and get that down.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we would start.
Yes, that's where you would start.
Every night before bed.
Yeah.
Just before we go to sleep. After we do that though, do we go and say our regular like, oh, I wish for long life? And
yeah, you can say all the rest of the
so
prayer.
that's like the opening to
that should be the opening to every prayer.
Every prayer.
Yeah, every prayer should start with
gotcha.
I pay homage to God first, and then everything else that you want to ask.
Everything else after that. Bring me a new car, bring me better health.
Right.
All these things, right?
All of those things that you want to ask about.
Okay.
So for those people who are writing down, you got Majuba doing, I do, Mokwe doing, Majuba, Asheda, Ni Akoda. These are the 2 holy students of Orumila that are deified. So they're sort of like Asheda and Akoda are considered deified energies, very, very close to between, say, Orumila and Olodumare.
Okay.
Baba Toby and Majuba Iya Toby. That means I pay homage to my mother and my father. Sometimes you'll hear that as Majuba Baba Ray or Iya Ray, which is the same thing. I pay homage to my mother and my father.
And Bob, you said you can say that in English too.
You can't say it in English. There's some level of understanding in terms of why we speak things in Yoruba. Yoruba is considered a primordial language. So for us, it's considered the language in heaven. So it says that when you are speaking Yoruba, you're calling things by their names that existed in heaven, which is why it's maybe more effective that way. But Eshu understands everything and he's a deity of communication. So I think that intent is more important than anything. To have intention into the things that you're saying out into the world. So if you need to speak it in English in order to make sure that you're saying what you're intending to, say it in English. Eventually you'll learn the Yoruba, you'll get to it. You don't have to be stuck, don't be stuck on that. The most important thing when talking to Orisha is to speak from your heart. Okay? Yeah.
Well, what makes gods become the specific gods of their things?
Oh man, that's too many stories to get into right now, Jasper. But I think that'll be a fun conversation for us to have because each Orisha has their reason why they picked their own particular ashe and why they became the deity that they came into. And there are a lot of stories like that. So I would love to share some of those stories. Maybe it will be.
Who say like, what makes the difference?
So you say, how would you be elevated to Orisha? You have to do incredible things on earth to some degree, and there should be a lot of people that once you help as many people as you can. To be honest with you, you want to be an Orisha, help as many people and do as much good as you can, so that when you transition, people are still praising your name.
Come Babalawo.
You know what I mean? Like they say, Babalaos don't die. That's true, but and that's to say that if you go back to the original concept of ancestor veneration and what that really represents, what that means, is that it says that when we're giving thanks to our ancestors in heaven, we're ensuring that they still exist. So you could imagine if, 100 years from now, like take for instance, you become a priest, right? And as a priest, you initiate 100 people, okay? And so those 100 people are all calling your name after you transition. And those 100 people initiate 100 people, right? And those 100 people initiate 100 people. So now you got 10,000 people that's saying, man, I just want to give thanks to Big Bear, man. Keep watching over me. But it's 10,000 people saying your name. You essentially in Orisha. You understand what I'm saying? Because at that point, those people are going to continue to initiate people, so your name is never going to die. So people still going to be calling you and venerating your name. And when it's 10,000 people that's calling your name, use a God.
So let me ask you this, out of all the 400 or whatever amount of Orishas, right? What made Oya and Elaguado more important than the rest of them? But how did they get to their level?
So you have something called Irumole. Okay, Irumole is an aspect of energy that existed in heaven before it existed on earth. So Orisha is an energy that exists on earth, that was incarnated on earth. That was the antithesis of a particular energy, right? But Irumole is an energy that existed in heaven before it even came down. And so it came down as an Irumole to earth, and it essentially became an Orisha because it still had its human counterpart.
Can there be more Orishas, or is it just a set amount of them?
That's a good question, Jasper. I'm not sure if I have an answer to that. I think that look, in Yoruba land, there's a lot of Orishas that I don't particularly know. And in different locations, they are Orishas that are specific to that particular place. So I would agree to some degree that there, I guess, could potentially be more Orishas, because an Orisha is a particular, like I say, like an energy that is the antithesis of a particular energy on earth. So, I mean, the fact that the world is still growing to some degree, yeah.
And you said before it's 401.
Yes, it's 401.
Because they say, like, the reason why a lot of people in America is so big with Yemaya because the ocean, they got access to the ocean. So the other Orishas, they don't really got access to it, so they really don't talk to them like that.
Oh, you talking about people in Yoruba land don't talk to Yemaya because they're not close to the ocean?
No, I'm talking about people in America that talk Yemaya because they have access to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the other Orishas that in Yoruba land that they talk to, the Americans don't talk to because they don't have the access.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain Orishas that are localized. Like, there's an Orisha called Olosa. Olosa is the owner of the lagoon, but you rarely hear about Olosa here because we don't be out at the lagoon. So nobody's like, hey, Olosa, I gotta come see you and bring you something. You feel what I'm saying? And so a lot of different energies have gotten pulled into working with one particular energy. So like when I'm talking to a local, a lot of times I may be talking to Olosa, you know what I mean? Like I'm talking to that particular aspect, or when I'm taking that offering to a particular place, I may be calling on that particular Orisha when I go to that particular locale. It's not always gonna be, oh, this Orisha I brought into my house. And there might be a reading that say, yo, you need this particular Orisha. This Orisha is rare, but there's a reading that you got that says that this particular energy is something that you have to pay attention to in your life. And so in certain circumstances, you might have to go to that place in Yoruba land so that you can receive that particular Orisha. You might be the only person in your town with this particular Orisha. And then you became the priest of that particular Orisha. Anybody that need to highlight that Orisha, guess what they had to do? Had to come through you. That's how that works.
Hey, Baba, let me ask you a question real quick.
Yes, sir.
And this is gonna sound a little arrogant, but you know me and you know what I mean when I ask it, right?
Okay.
What's the point in this tradition if you're not striving to be the greatest servant God ever made? Like, what's the point?
Oh, I gotta wait till my man with the chips in the back. Calm down. So you said, what is the point in this tradition if not striving to be the best version of yourself? Was that the question?
Really just the greatest servant God ever made in general. I mean, you know, this tradition doesn't knock any other traditions, but it does claim to be the mother tradition. So if you're not going to be the greatest servant God ever made underneath this tradition, why should you even practice it?
Well, I think that this tradition is really more about helping you be the best version of yourself. So helping you to fulfill whatever your destiny that you came to the earth to do. That's really what it's about at its core. Now, the conversation you had with God ain't the conversation I had. Maybe the conversation that you had was, I came to be the worst person that, like, there are some people like, so look, the understanding is that everything is a system of balance. And you can't get one without the other. You can't get life without some death. You can't get good without some bad. So everybody didn't come to the earth to be the most magnanimous and nice person on the planet. Some people came in to be an asshole. And that's their thing. And those people, they have a purpose here. They have a purpose in assisting each one of us in our spiritual evolution, because the real purpose of being here is for just that, your spiritual evolution, which meant that you came here to go through some trials and some tribulations. You came here to go through some problems, and there's got to be somebody here that's going to cause them problems for you, right? Everything in life ain't just going to be sweet. Somebody's got to be there to give you some pushback, to be the catalyst to ensure that you grow.
Dopest answer I think I ever heard, bro. I appreciate that.
No problem. Yes, in the back.
In Orisha initiation, when you become a priest and you get your name, it's usually a name that's been used before, maybe many times before. So it's not always you calling my name. My name is Oshunku. It's those people before me that had that name. So we continue through the years, 50 years, 100 years, again, because people, and when you pray, and you pray to your godparents or your godsisters and your godbrothers, those names are still called. So that, it doesn't differentiate which Oshun.
Right, absolutely. So I know 3 different Salakos. For that matter, so let give you an example of what Mom was talking about, right? I have my Ajabona, who helped me to be initiated to Orisha. His name was Salako. I had a very favorite aunt of mine who was a priestess of Obatala that I grew up around. Before I ever met my Ajabona, her name was also Salako. Then I got initiated, and when they initiated me to Obatala, they named me Salako. Right? So when I go through and I do my what you call my Ijuba, and I get to the Ibayes and I say Ibaye Salako, I'm actually I'm not referring to myself because I'm still here, but I'm referring to both of those 2 Salakos that was here that I know are ancestors that are watching my back right now, my Ajabona and my Auntie Mama Judy. You see what I'm saying? And so what this does is this continues to venerate and strengthen that spirit. And so when you ask about like Orisha, and I say Orisha is almost like the antithesis of a person. Like you have the Irumale, but then you have the Orisha. And the Orisha was on earth walking around like a person at a particular point. And they say that person comes back more than once. That's why sometimes people will have the same Orisha name. You might have had somebody that had this Orisha name 150 years ago, and then somebody gets initiated today and they end up with the same Orisha name. It's because that energy, if not that personality specific, but that energy comes back again. And that's how you get deified. You're like, well, how do I become an Orisha? That's how. And these people are important because as priests, when they were here, they did the best that they could in order to assist people in their spiritual evolution. So then when they were no longer here, people were still calling their name and praising their name and be like, listen, I definitely want all of these Orishas to have my back, but let me call on these Agans, because these ancestors, they understand time. They understand rent. They understand bills. They was here more recently, right? So when we call them, they come fast. And so when you start calling on ancestors that was also priests, they wasn't just the ancestors, but they was also priests of Orisha. They're that much more powerful and assist you that much more quickly in doing it, whatever it is that you're doing. Well, helping you to accomplish whatever it is that you're asking for. Man, I think that this was a really, really good class. I hope everybody got some good information.
I got one more question.
It is about 1:56, so I am going to be wrapping up in a second. Yes.
Hold on now.
When you Joko, when you open it, I go Ifa. Well, when you pick it up, I go Ifa day. And so actually, when you open it up, there's actually a song that you do. So I need to do this lesson for the Oshe Ifa for you guys. So the song is actually Ifagio Orumila Biololio Ko Kiawali. I don't know if you're gonna be able to write all this down. It's the song when you open up Ifagio Orumila Biololio Ko Kiawalio Biololio Do Kiawalio Biololio De Kiawalio, which is essentially saying Orumila. If you're at the roadside, I need you to be here. Orumila, if you're at the market side, I need you to be here. Orumila, if you're at the river, I need you to be here. And then you open up your pot so that Ifa is there when you open up the pot. But we'll get to that one. Yes, question in the front.
Baba, what's the god of life?
The god of life. I think that might be considered Obatala. So Obatala is the deity that is considered to have molded the human body and kind of like breathes life into the human being. So they say that Obatala is the owner of all heads. So he is the creator of everybody's physical form.
So is that why everybody's Orisha is Obatala first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. That's why everybody starts off as a child of Obatala, and then you find out which Orisha may have been walking with you in heaven, but it's Obatala who molded your body and blew in me or the spirit into you so that you get incarnated. Yes, in the back, and then we'll take you to God.
Okay, could you,
I had a question.
talking about prayers, could you just say for the morning prayer when you wake up, the simple prayer that people can begin their day with before we?
Okay, so the easy one is you touch your head and you say Orisa mi, Orisa mi, Orisa mi. And then Ori Jaja for me, Ori Jaja for me, Ori Jaja for me. So what this means is, head, I have been selected for spiritual assignment today. That's what Orisa mi means. Head, I've been selected for spiritual assignment today. And then Ori Jaja for me means head, fight for me. Essentially, head, fight for me, fight for me, fight for me. And so what this is to put you in alignment with your own Ori, that part of your soul that remembers the conversation that you had with God. So I've been selected for a spiritual assignment today. I know I got things to do. And when I go into the world, I need you to fight for me so that I'm in the right place at the right time and not in the wrong place at the wrong time. Orisami, 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 Ori Jaja for me, Ori Jaja for me, Ori Jaja for me. Orisa Egede, Orisa Egede, Orisa Egede. That's the last part of it. I can just do the first two. Yes.
Baba, can you say God of lightning?
The god of lightning?
God.
Shango.
God.
You said the god of lightning. It would be Shango.
Am I Shango?
No, you're Ogun. That has to do, you will be considered a child of Ogun, who's not necessarily the lightning, but he wields the hammer. And he's considered the strongest, the physically strongest of all the gods.
So you would be considered like Thor?
Shango is very similar to Thor, yes.
So I can beat Jasper in a fight right now?
I don't know if you could beat Jasper in a fight right now, but maybe when you get big enough, you'll have all the strength in the world to do that.
When can I get the hammer?
When can you get the hammer? You ain't even initiated yet. Let's get you some other stuff first. He already trying to pull the lightning from the sky. We'll get to that later, little guy. Did anybody else have any questions before we close this class?
I got quick. Hold on. You can hear me?
Hold on. We got Bimmy. What's up, Bimmy?
I just had the one quick question. The three major prayers, Majuba Ludamar, Majuba Lofin. What was the last one?
Majuba Olorun. Olorun.
O-L-O.
Majuba Olodumare, Majuba Olofin, Majuba Olorun.
Okay, that's what we say. That's what we say before we start praying to our reaches and ancestors, right?
Yeah, that's what you say at the beginning of every prayer. Would be to start with Majuba Olodumare, Majuba Olofin, Majuba Olorun. And then in my particular Rama is Majuba Dun, Ayadun, Mokwe Dun, Majuba Ashe Da, Ni Ako Da, Majuba Baba Tobi, Majuba Iya Tobi, Majuba Oluo, Majuba Ajibona, Majuba Lagba, Majuba Omo Kekede, Majuba Obirin, Majuba Okurin, Majuba Bobo Awo. And that's the one that I do. You can adjust that. And I'll give you other things that you can say in there because Yoruba is not a static language, and the prayer is not supposed to be static. It's supposed to be said with intent. So ideally, if you know what it is that you're saying, you're putting your intent into it. So all of the things that I'm saying, I know what I'm saying, so I'm essentially putting my intent in them, but you can adjust them.
Ben, thank you.
After you get the, what you say?
I said, Ben, thank you. That's what I need right there.
No problem. And we'll do another class with this where I'll actually give a list and we'll go through practicing the Majubas to where we get them all down and you know what you're saying, and then we can get into the basics of Obi divination so that there's incantations that you say when you are about to throw Obi to the Orisha.
You can't throw Obi without knowing the Majubas.
No, you are not supposed to be throwing Obi without throwing the Majubas because that's what gives it the power. Just remember, this whole class is about doing the Majuba, but it's really about how to empower yourself. And you empower yourself when it's not just you standing in front of the Orisha. is you and all of the ancestors and all of these energies that you called up that's standing with you. And that's what gives it so much ashe, because you're never there by yourself. Remember, when you got your Majuba and when you know it, you are never, ever there by yourself. Even if you seem like you're standing there alone, understand that you got 1,000 behind you that's helping you to accomplish what it is that you accomplish.
And also, many times you can feel something. You don't know what it is, and so, as time moves on, there will be times where you will know. But you can feel them being there on your behalf.
Yes.
Brushing your shoulder, just a feeling. And that's a good one.
Question.
Baba, can you tell me what some of the gods and names mean? Like Eshu or?
Yes. That might be another conversation, but we will go with that because they all have, for that matter. I mean, that's a great question, Jasper. Jasper, you give me some of the best questions, bro. So each Orisha's name is actually an incantation, generally a description of that particular Orisha. So I'll give you one, Yemonja. Yemonja really comes from the elegy Iya Mo Eja, which means Iya means mother, Mo means eye, and Eja means fishes. And so Iya Mo Eja means the mother of fishes. So that's Yemonja. But we'll going through some of the other Orishas as well, okay? Yeah.
Yemonja in Yoruba, it translates to mermaid. I think.
I mean, well, no, I'm telling you, it transfers Iya Mo Eja means mother of fishes. So yeah, that could be mermaid. You would look at it that way.
Hey, Baba, let me ask one question for y'all unpack.
Yeah.
So are you guys gonna look at doing misas on a regular? Because when they start getting past brushing your shoulders, like Mama Tamanika said, and start talking to you, sometimes you need to know whether or not you should be acting on what you're hearing, or you need to be paused and just being like, nah, you ain't one I need to listen to. So
yes,
when do you get that point?
Yeah, that's John. Yes, John. The misas are coming.
Yes.
Listen, Mama's getting ready. She's coming. The misas will be scheduled. Don't worry. I'm gonna let you know, bro. But no, listen. We actually, I was talking to her about that earlier today. So we're pretty much getting. She wanted to do some write-ups and some things so that when you guys come to the misa, that y'all also leave with something so that you have something to refer to after the misa. So me and her are working on that. Don't worry, it's on the way. What's a misa? A misa is a spiritual gathering, and it's specifically designed to talk to the ancestors or to talk to spirits, not just the ancestors, but spirits, because sometimes the spirits around aren't yours ancestrally. And so it is a gathering of people to communicate with these spirits, usually led by somebody who is a medium. A medium is
supposed to be his.
Is what's supposed to be his misa.
Yeah.
Well, the misa is usually is not always done for a singular person. It's a lot of times a group event. They can be done for a singular person. Yeah, I'll let you know, Bear, when it's time to do the misa. Don't worry, we're gonna publicly be letting people know. We got a whole temple calendar that's gonna be going up. So when we doing public misas, I will be informing people, and I'll let you know. You can holler at Mama. We'll get it straight. So,
be careful what you wish for, though, boy. Because I'm telling you, boy. I'm just trying to warn you, boy. Be careful what you wish for.
I want to thank everybody for coming to the class today. I hope, like I said, once again, that I've given some information that you can use to assist you in your own personal spiritual evolution. I will be having another class 2 Sundays from now, so not next Sunday, but the Sunday after that. We're gonna be here. So if you guys want to come and get a little information,
when the next class, bro?
The Sunday after next. The Sunday after next, which I think is the weekend of Thanksgiving.
That is.
It's the weekend of Thanksgiving. So yeah, I'm glad. It's good to see you. But you hold on for a second. You don't go nowhere. I need to talk to you before you leave. But everybody else, I want to thank you for being here. Everybody that managed to meet me here online. We're still working it out, getting the camera right with the technical difficulties. Next time I'm gonna have a better camera up here. But I just want to say thank you for coming. And I hope to see you again at the next class. We're out of here.